Do you ever see people that are now afraid of buying a home as a first-time home buyer, or B, afraid of coming back and buying because of the foreclosure experience that they had?
Yeah.
Is there a tie with that, or is it just...
Well,
because it's a big deal buying a house.
It is a big deal. It's a really big deal. And so far, I can't say I've ever had someone come to therapy for that reason.
Right.
Although I've had a lot of people come to therapy because of a remodel. There is something about remodeling
do I have a white kitchen, or do I have a modern?
It is so stressful that it does often. It is often the straw that breaks the camel's back. That people come for therapy. It's interesting.
Yeah.
But I think, it's a good example of where you really do see the control issue, the uncertainty issue, the responsibility issue. And it's one of the very few choices. Well, let me back up. So people who struggle with anxiety to begin with frequently have trouble making decisions because there's this sense that, wanting the certainty, wanting the control, there's a sense that there's a right decision and a wrong decision, right? Black and white is comfortable.
Yes.
And that's very rarely the way the world works, right? Like, we make decisions, and those decisions have consequences, and some of them we like, and some of them maybe we don't like, and then it's trial and adjustment. That's how we learn how to pivot. And there are very few decisions that are, you're signing in blood and you can't change your mind.
Right.
Suicide would be one, right? And buying a house isn't one.
Right.
But it gets kind of close, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you sign those papers and it is a done deal, there are a lot of really negative consequences if you decide that you shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
It's not the right neighborhood. It's not the right school system. I don't like this particular dwelling after all.
Right.
So it puts a lot more pressure to make the quote unquote right decision.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yes. And do you see that maybe with millennials versus, Gen Xers? Is there a change in that? Because I know from some studies I've seen, Gen Xers, the difference, millennials are more mobile. They don't want to be locked down. They want to have more flexibility with kind of where we're living. Have you seen that kind of trend with that at all?
I don't know that I can say I've seen that, though I think that really makes sense, just given the way the world is and what they're exposed to. But what I absolutely see is, so if you think about this idea that we're evolutionarily programmed to avoid uncertainty, right? Like you see a vague figure off in the distance, and it could be a bear, it could be a blueberry bush. You don't really know. And if you think, like, better to be safe than sorry, right? It could be a bear. I'm going to go hang out in the cave, not take my chances. You might miss a meal. But if you were like, I'm sure it's fine, right? I'm sure it's blueberry bush, not a bear, and you're wrong, you become the meal, right? So if you think about evolution and survival of the fittest and all of these things, we're literally designed to worry about, like, what's up ahead, and to avoid uncertainty or to resolve uncertainty. Because if you really know whether it's a bear or blueberry bush, now you really have an advantage, right? Okay. So now fast forward to today, and when we were growing up, we are programmed to not like uncertainty, but we get a lot of practice tolerating it. So you get better at being able to deal with it. But now with technology, everything you ever want to know is pretty much at your fingertips the very moment you want to know it.
Right.
No matter how small, right? Like, who won Best Picture in 1980? Ask Alexa, ask Siri. You'll know instantly. If you're going to pick a restaurant, a movie, a product, everything has reviews.
Right.
So you're really, like, never taking a chance.
Exactly.
So those, like, muscles for learning how to tolerate uncertainty, learning through experience that, like, it's not a big deal, or even if you have a bad experience, that's also not a big deal. They've sort of atrophied.
Interesting.
Right? Does that make sense? So, like, if you think about millennials, like, that has been their whole entire life and will continue to be the case for young people and technology.
To do that.
Exactly.
Because it's all, just like we can't remember phone numbers anymore because it's all in our phones. We can't remember directions because we rely on the maps.
Right.
So
now think about making a decision like buying a home. right? You can't get on Amazon and read reviews for that home.
That's true.
You know, and I'm sure there are people who are doing a whole lot of kind of Google searching to try to get much more certainty and control over how to make
all that stuff.
I mean, it's probably through the roof, I imagine. Neighborhoods, schools, every bit of information you can possibly find.
Right.
But sometimes the more questions you ask, the more questions you create.
True.
And there's just never going to be a situation where you know with 100% certainty that this house, this neighborhood, whatever it is the right decision.
Yeah.
Because there's kind of no such thing.
Right.
Right?
Absolutely.
But then that just, so the combination of this is a huge decision. It's kind of irreversible, at least for a couple years, unless you're really independently wealthy. And there's really no way to get that level of full certainty and control.